All right. Let's see here. And does anybody in chat want to get their opinions in here before we go ahead and just choose one randomly? We will definitely just randomly choose one if nobody has an option, but I would much rather go with what the chat decides. So please let me know if you have one, and if you don't have an opinion, that's okay too. But please let me know. 1, 2, 3, or 4. But what are we all thinking here? Do we want to go 1, 2, 3, or 4? I'll give it another couple seconds here while I check something. What are we doing, Captain? Done deal. I need to know what, give me a sec. I need to know what choice here on the top screen. I'm gonna add another window capture so that I could actually make choices more visible for y'all. Give me a second. This is gonna be display window capture desu mi bob boo bobbo. That's not what we want. Fucking dox myself. Whoops. I need to know which of these choices, script. Those are the choices are on screen. Let me know. If you can't hear me, I've typed it up. Choices are up on screen in case you are lurking. Just let me know which one you want to go with. 1, 2, 3, or 4. All valid options, and the first one gets it. You know, anybody can choose. I'm down with anybody. But, you know, I'll give you a couple seconds here, a minute or two. Then we will see what we want to do. But yeah, that we're choosing where we are going to search for Snake. So what are we thinking here? What are we thinking here, chat? Where should we search for Snake this time? Snake is missing again. Very unfortunate, but all right, I think we're gonna go ahead here and choose one of them. It's looking like we'll have to get our poll ready. Hopefully people will vote in the poll. We'll check the hallway with all the rooms. We should go check that hallway with all the rooms. Okay, let's go, Jumpy. They turned around on the hallway to the left. Ahead of them, farther down the hallway, they spotted Ace. Hey, Snake, where are you? Answer me if you're there. I think I've heard this before. What did Junpei want to do? We're gonna. I mean, last time we ran to Ace, so let's let Ace handle it this time. If you want an opinion in chat, by the way, just let me know you're here, and we will, you know, slow down the choices and let you do it. We're heading up for a break here soon, so I don't mind. But where? Let's see. We're gonna go to the first class cabin. Okay, I'm coming with you. They turned and headed toward B deck. Outside of the first class cabin, they found Clover. She was standing in front of the wall. She was staring at the blank wall. What should Junpei do? We'll leave her alone. Something told Junpei we need to leave her alone. Whisper quietly to June. Buddy system, it is. I think you're right. They turned and walked quietly down the stairs. So what we're gonna do here is, because we've already triggered most of these, Clover had driven home the misery of the situation. Yeah, there we go. We are going to go back to the large hospital room. And we're going to finish searching. Walk away without saying anything this time. Where did Junpei go? Finish searching. Okay. Basically, they're saying we've got to go through the doors. We're going to leave one person behind as a sacrifice. And we're going to say she is right. We know she's right. The math equals out that way. So this lets us skip over all of the dialogue that she's explaining. They start fighting and Clover agrees with them. And they basically are like, oh, look at that. It's unanimous. And Ace is like, oh, you don't need to, you do that. I'll stay behind. I'm a good guy. I'll stay behind. I'm Ace. I'm Dad Goals. And then he passes out. Does he? Does he not pass out? Yeah, he passes out. And he's like, oh, I drugged myself. Do 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 do. All right, why did you do this? He's basically like, oh, I drugged myself because I'm a noble guy, and I didn't want you guys. I'm old. I'm going to slow you down. So here is a huge choice. Oh, macaroni. We're back here. We're back here. We're going to go. I forgot to turn that off. I'm sorry. We're going to go ahead. We're going to set up a poll. We're going to manage a poll, and I'm going to go on break, and then we're going to set this up. Oh, man, I am in fucking shambles. That's right. Okay, let me make sure everything is set here. I did do a few things, so I got to unmute this. I've got to fix the speaker. Headphones are on. Microphone needs to get moved. Door 3 was chosen. This is going to be very interesting. This is one of those more unique ending routes. I'll let you know now. This is a unique ending route for me. I don't remember it. And that's why it's unique. Because I don't remember what happens, but I remember something happens here. Would you like to quit? No. Would you like to quit? No. I am choosing door 3. I want to go through door 3. No. You can't. Huh? Why? Because it's impossible. If we split ourselves into 3 and 3, then we're going through door... We're not going up on door 3. Why? Fucking... Junpei the himbo here does not understand how math works. Anyway, but yeah, the math does not work out for us to go through door 3 unless we leave people behind. So, in order for us to do what you are asking, which is what we will be doing, that's it. Of course, 2 teams can't go through the same door. I see. That means 1 team would have left behind. That's right. That doesn't happen if we go through door 7 or 8. No, they're fine. We've got 3 options. Santa began to explain. Plan A, go through door 7 and go through door 8. Plan B, go through door 7 and go through door 8. Or plan C, go through door 7 and go through door 8. Those are the only 3 options. That's it. At least if we want to get all 6 out of here. However, we have chosen what we are doing. That was when Junpei realized Plan A divides into 2 teams. Plan B divides into 2 teams. Plan C divides into 2 teams. There was only one thing they all had in common. In every single combination, 5 and 6 were never on the same team. That means June and Junpei can never, in this scenario, go together if we go through this option. If we go through door 7 or 8, June and Junpei, Junpei and Akane, the childhood friends, cannot go through the doors if we go through this option. In other words, if all 6 people were to move forward, Junpei and June would be separated. June and Junpei were friends when they were kids. He trusted her more than anyone else on the ship. If they chose 7 or 8, he'd be taken away from her. Was that something he was prepared to do? Anyways, that's the deal, so think it over. We've got 2 choices, 7 or 8. You can't choose 3. If you choose 3, you're going to be leaving 3 people to die. And what are we going to do? 7 or 8? Time to choose. Junpei thought hard. After thinking it over, his conclusion was... Now... I'm telling you what's going to happen here. You all made your vote already? There's no shot Junpei backs down, right? Like, I'll talk to you all about this. Let's chat about this. If anybody's here and thinks this is the wrong option, let's talk it through. This game has multiple endings, though. But I feel it's only fair, right? Leave 3 behind. We want to see what's behind door number 3, right? We know Snake was there last time. So, I think we're taking the risk and we're choosing door 3. Sorry, Santa. I still want to go through door 3. What? That's nuts. Would you like to quit? No. You've got to be crazy. Why the hell are you so obsessed with that door? I'm just... Junpei paused. He swallowed the words he was about to say. I'm just curious about door 3 is all. That doesn't explain shit. I've got a reason. I'd be happy to explain it if you'll just come with me. With that, he began walking toward the door. Their curiosity likely getting the better of them, the others followed. Oh my god! Wait a minute! Wait a minute! Give me a second. Give me a second here. Is Junpei about to fucking do a sneaky? Give me a second. What's Santa's fucking bracelet? This is door 3, right? What's Santa's bracelet number, everyone? Is it 3? Three plus 5 plus 6. What's 3 plus 5 plus 6? 3 plus 6. Oh, it doesn't work out. Okay, he's not going to do what I think he's going to do. Okay, 14. So it's not going to be as sneaky as I thought. A few of them looked suspicious, but Junpei told himself that wouldn't matter. He kept walking and kept silent. Eventually, they arrived at the number 3 door. Junpei stopped. I'm curious about the red. 7, would you mind authenticating for me? Duh. Why? Please just do it. He stared at Junpei for a moment, then grunted and laid his palm heavy on the scanner. I don't remember what happens. Duh, happy? Yeah, thanks. The number 7 had entered in the red. Next is June. Please touch the red like 7 did. Jumpy, what are you trying to figure out? Junpei thought about his answer for a moment. I think I might have found another way out. Huh? What? Really? That got them excited, just as Junpei had intended. Now, please, June. Okay. Plus 4? It doesn't equal out. With those 2 numbers in the red, Junpei had what he wanted. He casually placed his own hand on the scanner and blinked. 9. All right. What? The only people who haven't authenticated now are Santa, Clover, and Lotus. So what's your point? You don't get it. Think about it. What's the sum of your numbers and Clover's? 12. And what's the digital root of that? 3, which is Santa's number. By the way, Lotus, what's the number that's currently in the red? That would be 9. Yes. And that will be the digital root if you add 3 to it. 3. The door's number. There you go. Hey, wait a minute. What the hell are you up to? I'm not up to anything. I'm just waiting. Waiting for what? What? I'm waiting for the balance to shift? Santa, or Lotus and Clover. Once one of you moves, the others won't have a choice. So I'm waiting. Junpei laid his hand almost casually on the lever. Oh! You son of a bitch! You tricked us! Then all the stuff you said about going about is bullshit? Bullshit, I don't think so. Didn't I tell you I'd figure out another way for us to get out of here? This is it. Why the hell would I do something like this? Junpei glanced at June. Jumpy, you did this, and you could go through the same door as June? That's it? Santa was furious, his face red, and flecks of spit flew from his lips as he spoke. Junpei closed his eyes calmly, then opened them again. So who's gonna be? Santa or Lotus and Clover? Shit. We're going. Clover. Lotus leapt forward. Oh my god. She grabbed Clover by the sleeve and ran for Junpei and the door. Caught by surprise, Santa froze for a moment and then shot forward like a bullet from a gun. Lotus had a head start, but Santa had the advantage in size and speed. Almost immediately, he passed Lotus and Clover. No, wait! Santa did not hesitate. Arrgh! He slammed his hand down on the red. This is insane. This isn't right. He glanced at Junpei, his chest heaving. Yeah, well, you may be right. Junpei's voice was cold, but without effort. He turned to the red and pulled the lever. With the sound of metal on metal, the door opened. It would be only open for 9 seconds. There was no time to think. Go. Junpei and his 3 reluctant companions jumped through the door's gaping mouth, one after another. No sooner did they enter than an all too familiar noise sounded from their left wrist. The detonators had activated. Junpei looked back only once and saw Lotus and Clover on the other side of the closing door. They stood still, stopped, and where they had been, Santa had reached the door. Their defeat, desperation on their faces tore at Junpei's heart. Then the door closed and they were gone. You son of a bitch, Junpei, this isn't fair. Santa rounded on Junpei, lightning crackling in his eyes, and his knuckles were white. You realize what you just did? You let them out there, they can't. Shut it. That's enough. It hadn't been Junpei who spoke, but 7. We gotta find the dead or none of it's gonna matter. The clock was ticking. The dead was their only chance of survival. Until they could find it and deactivate the detonators, the 4 of them would be. We got less than a minute left! No time for screwing around. Let's get moving. They scattered and began to scour the room. The deactivation dead was nowhere to be found. Corridors stretched out in all 3 directions, but every one of them was blocked off by a wall of metal. There was only one way out. One other door. There! 7 ran for the door, a rusty iron thing. His large hands grabbed a hold of the handle and pulled. The room inside was pitch black. They could see nothing beyond but a small light that spilled through the doorway. Junpei's head stuck to the room and looked around the room. Almost immediately, he spotted the blinking red light on the wall. I found it! The dad's right over here! He stepped into the room and nearly fell down. The floor was slippery. What? He stopped and glanced down at his feet. What was... Hey, what the hell are you doing? Get over there! Junpei felt Seven's heavy hand on his shoulder. The three of them piled into the room. They immediately felt something was wrong. Nothing that could easily be identified. Only a sense of something terrible shared among them in that room. But there was no time to say what. Quick! Get to the dead! They all started running. In the dark, it was hard to tell where the wall was. All they could see was this tiny red light blinking over and over and over. Then, finally, all of a sudden, they were there. In quick succession, they all slammed their hands against the scanner panel. Seven leaned against the wall, gulping for air as his breath began to return to normal. He glanced at his left wrist and grunted. Okay, that. And, oh, it stopped. It stopped. Junpei could hear Seven laughing in the dark, but he could barely make out the large man's face. What the? Hey, by the way. What's that, everyone? What the? Ugh, the sound of retching came from Santa's direction. What the hell is that smell? It's vile. I'm gonna puke. So desperately they'd been in the race for the dead that no one had noticed the horrible smell that pervaded the room. It was terrible, nauseating stench like burnt and rotten meat. Adrenaline had drowned it out, but now it rolled over Junpei in waves, forcing itself into his nose with every breath he took. He felt his stomach clench and bile rise up in his throat. Duh, let's get the lights on first. There's a switch over here. The lights that spilled into the door barely illuminated a small switch in the plate next to the door. Slowly, with the toll of the last few minutes apparent in his gait, Seven walked toward it. He stopped at he got close and extended his fingers toward the switch. There was a soft click, the lights came on. It was hard. It had scarcely faded when another noise pierced the air. A scream. Wait. I can be funny about this. Give me a second. I can make a yoke. But I need to get my voice ready for this. Oh, so this is gonna take me a second to get the voice modulation. And I need to take a drink to do this. Okay. Hopefully that worked. By the way, if you're enjoying this game and you like spooky games, check out our buddy Jackal the Revenant. He also plays spooky games. I'm gonna go ahead and give him ye old shout out. Last seen playing Dead by Daylight. That's a good one. We like that one. June screams. Junpei's breath stopped in his throat. His heart ceased to beat. Time froze. His mind scrambled to make sense of what he saw before him. What was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. chunks of flesh torn from his body sat in the blood like tiny islands of the Great Red Sea. A vast, ragged hole had been torn in the torso, and what remained of his intestines spilled out like fresh scatty. Smaller chunks of meat had splattered against the wall and become stuck there as they dried. Globules of yellow fat had left trails like tiny little slugs down the wall that dried to it. Looks like an explosion. Seven's voice was low and strained. Just like the ninth, man. The detonator in his bracelet set off the bomb in his gut. It looked as though the explosion had been quite powerful. His legs were both bent in an... His legs were both bent in an odd, unnatural way, and his left arm had split and open, exposing the painfully white bone and of his unula. That'll be important for later, script. If you're following the story, that'll be important later. There's a clue there, I'll let you know. His bracelet lay next to him. There's a clue in here, basically, for what's going on. It seemed to have hit the wall hard enough to have shattered the pieces of the display to the ground. Half of his head simply collapsed. We Sherlocking. Yeah, we're Sherlocking together. I mean, I know what's going on, but like... For everybody in the chat who doesn't, also this is going to be produced into YouTube videos. So for people watching this in post, who are watching this and wondering and following the series, there you go. The blood was like pizza dough. His clothes were covered in blood. The burgundy tie, white shirt, jacket with the yellow piping and the gray slacks. They all were familiar to Junpei. Is that Snake? Santa's voice wavered as he spoke, his mouth dry. Oh my God. Finally, Junpei spoke. Why did this happen? Uh-oh. I might have made a mistake. I don't like it. I don't like it. No! Suddenly, June was screaming. Her voice broke, and it was an eerie scream, full of insanity, not entirely human. No. 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 She shook her head violently and grabbed fistfuls of her own hair. Junpei could hear the hair tearing. No, stop it, June. He grabbed for her wrist, but as he did, June leapt and ran toward the exit. Please, get me out of here. You have to let me out of here. She screamed at the door, and her fist slammed against the hollow sound. Junpei could see drops of blood on her knuckles. Why are you doing this horrible things to us? What did we do to deserve this? She screamed again, a desperate, mindless cry. Her fists flailed against the door. Get me out of here! Please! Please! Just get me out! Junpei couldn't watch anymore. He ran to June and wrapped his arms around her, pulling the screaming girl away from the door. No, get off of me! Let me go! Let me go! She scrambled for a moment, her legs skittered across the floor, but her resistance didn't last long. As suddenly as her outburst had begun, it was over. The manic energy disappeared, and her body went limp in Junpei's arms. June collapsed towards the door, and Junpei knelt down with her. He felt drops of something warm and wet. Was she crying? A moment later, she began to sob. Her shoulders shook, and great hot tears rolled down her face like rain. We're gonna be fine. It's gonna be all right, June. It's gonna be okay, Connie. Her name was a whisper. I'll be here with you, okay? She nodded once. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jumpy. Her trembling voice pulled at Junpei's heart. He stroked her hair gently. His face was so much closer to his. The scent of her hair was nostalgic. Do you feel better? Yes, but I'd like to stay here just for a little while at least. Jumpy, your body, it's warm. Several minutes passed, and June's tears had begun to dry. Junpei stood up. He bent down and put his arms around June's and helped her to her feet. They didn't speak. Neither did Seven or Santa. A person was dead. They had died in the room in a terrible way. Junpei knew there was no way he could make himself forget that. There was no any of them could forget that. But mourning would do no good. They spread out to search the room, but each felt as if their heart was made of lead. Here we go! We have entered an investigation phase, y'all. We need to escape from this room. The letters written in blood, LLR. What do you think they mean? Some sort of dying message from Snake? That's impossible. You saw the body. There's no way there's something like that's happening to you. Then this way the blood's dried tells you it's real old. Whoever's blood it is, it ain't Snake's. Then you're saying the blood was put here a long time ago? Yeah. Chunks of piled flesh splattered around across the floor. Snake, why did this have to happen to you? Damn, I just can't. Junpei reached for the broom, and as he went to grab it, he heard a soft voice behind him. It was June. The rabbit hutch. Huh? He turned around. June still looked sadly pale, and there was a smile on her face. Oh, you just reminded me. The rabbit hutch, I mean. How did I remind you of something like that? Jumpy and the broom. You were always playing around with the broom in front of the rabbit hutch. I was? Don't you remember? Junpei stared down at the broom in his hand. You mean you don't remember that summer either? She looked very sad. He shook his head. Oh, of course I remember! Of course! How could I forget something like that? It was terrible. Hey. Warning? Like content warning? There's a legitimate content warning here. I need to look up something here legitimately. I literally need to check something here. Yeah. Like, I don't. Yeah, I don't know how to. Like, is this gonna spoil it? No, it's bad. It's like, I don't know if I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna post a link. If you are trigger, like, if there is content that triggers you in video games, please check that list, and because I will let you know, like, what is coming up is not good stuff. Like, I did a content warning earlier as like a jokey one for the, like, the Ninth Man Death Saw thing. Like, this one's legitimate though. I don't know if they show anything, but they do talk about something. So, like, if you have any content warning, like that, there's your content warning. We are going to jump into it in a few seconds here. So we're going to wait for it to check. We're going to wait for it to, like, sync up here in a second. And then we are going to continue on with the read. Okay. So if you have if you need to tune out for a minute, let me know. Tune back in like 5-10. Send me a message you're tuning out if you need to. Whatever you need to do, you know, take care of your own mental health and stuff like. But this game does have some stuff that can be triggering to some people, so be aware of that. We are going to be continuing right now. They were in 6th grade. Oop, doesn't work if you don't put your controller on. Junpei and June had been assigned to take care of the classroom's pets, the rabbits. The chief duty was to clean the hutches every morning. On the final day of school before summer vacation began, Junpei overslept. He rushed to school and found that June standing in front of the rabbit hutches. Yeah, it really is. No sooner than Junpei arrived, June began to cry. Yeah, it really is. And I think that I'm going to start using that. Having seen you do that, that is very important, Kel. I'm really going to start using that because I should have started using that for this one, but I like legitimately forgot about this part until now. Like they mentioned 6th grade and I was like, oh shit, I remember something. So I'm going to let y'all know I am continuing. If you need to tune out, please do so. You could tune back in if you want, but like no sooner than Junpei had arrived, June had begun to cry. He had no idea why he looked until he looked behind her into the rabbit hutch. The first thing he saw was blood. The hutch was filled with the dead bodies of rabbits. Even after the teachers and friends came to see what their commotion was, June couldn't stop crying. I just kept crying and crying until you came over. You held my hand and you looked very serious and you said, oh yeah, for sure, Kel. There's definitely a lot of things that can be a lot of disturbing things, but I'm going to be honest with you. This series has some serious stuff in it. Like some of the things on that list I was looking at, and for some people I know, like there's some stuff in this game that like some people cannot handle. Just the style of the game is not conducive to a good mental health experience for them, and I understand that. So, you know, I want to make sure that I'm providing the utmost safe space for everyone watching my content, right? So I just want to make sure you have a heads up. If you like, this is this is my favorite game of all time, this series, and it's deep. It is good. You held my hand and looked very serious, and you said, "Don't cry. I'm going to catch the person who did this." After that, you told me that I stopped crying. Well, the real fun was after you quit crying. You told me you were going to catch the killer together. June smiled. A little flush returned to her cheeks. Then we decided we'd ambush them. Yeah, I remember now. The school also kept roosters and guinea pigs. Junpei and June had decided that the murderer would likely return to finish off the rest of the animals. They would ambush the killer at night. Junpei and June hid behind the hutch at dusk and waited. It was a warm summer night. The quiet sound of crickets and whispers whispered through the air. As the sun went down, the stars began to wink at them from the sky. And June's Akane Kurashiki, her face. That night, something Junpei knew he'd never forget as long as he'd lived. But the murderer never showed up. We waited for them all summer vacation and they never showed up. Yeah, but the animals didn't get attacked either. I think all that work amounted to something, you know, right? He felt the same way, but it was good to hear her say it. A bad feeling about what? A bad feeling about what, Script? Although you'd probably know if you think about it, we were probably taking on a lot more than we could handle. What do you mean? She looked up at him confused. Well, come on. We were just kids. Just getting a weird vibe. You might want to hold on to that weird vibe, because when you get a weird vibe, Might mean something. Just saying. We were just kids. If whoever killed the rabbits has actually showed up, we'd probably had a knife or something. I mean, you must have been worried, right? I wasn't worried. Because, well, you were there with me, Jumpy. She blushed furiously. You know, no one else ever wanted to take care of the animals. Clearly embarrassed, she tried desperately to change the subject. I was the only one who asked to do it at first. Yeah, boys don't really want to bother with taking care of animals, you know? Well, yeah, but you asked to do it after I did, didn't you? Well, if it was the rabbits, they were going to make me do something else. Yeah, you know, like, that's how school was. I figured it was better to be working with somebody I wasn't too much of a, you know, loudmouth, right? Somebody who wasn't going to tell on me if I felt like blowing off. Oh, really? That's why you volunteered? I mean, yeah, totally. He nodded quickly and too earnestly and quickly looked away at something very important. That hadn't been the reason, of course. He had asked to take care of the rabbit so he could be near to June. No, Akane. But it hadn't been so long, he couldn't bring himself to tell her how he had felt back then. It would be silly, an embarrassment. It didn't matter. He took a quick breath to clear his head, tossed the broom up, and snatched it out of the air. Well, we don't have time to be taking a stroll down memory lane now, do we? We've got to figure this thing out, a way out of this room. Otherwise, yes, no sun. June nodded curtly and turned and walked away. Junpei turned around the room and looked at the room, at Snake's body. Chunks of flesh and organs still lay on the floor. The conversation he and Jude had been scarcely fit their surroundings. No being Sundar. But perhaps that was simply human nature. Despite such a situation, or perhaps because of it, the mind turned to the farthest thing from death that it could find. Still, Junpei couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt, a wanting so desperately to live when Snake lay before him. He had to live. He wanted a life again, a life with June in it. He stared at clumps of blackened flesh as Junpei could think of how much he wanted to live. Now we have the broom. If you liked the video, consider leaving a like, follow, and subscribe. Check us out on other social medias linked in the description. Bye now.